Hey guys, my name is Julie and I am a nurse. Actually, I've been a nurse for about 6 years now. I cannot believe it. Time has flown by so freaking fast. That's being a nurse, like honestly, like if you're a new grad nurse watching this and you feel like, oh my God, I'm new, I'm always gonna feel new, or it's gonna take so long to get there, or so long to get some years of experience under your belt, let me tell you, time really flies by so fast. So stay in the game, stay focused, stay focus on your dreams and your passions and your end goal, whether you want to be an NP, a nurse practitioner, a nurse educator, nurse informatics, nurse administrator, nurse manager. There's the possibilities and the choices are endless. So the world is your oyster, as they would say, so stick with it. But today in this video, I want to talk to you guys about my first experience experiencing a real first live patient death. And that is crazy. I mean, I know almost all nurses, who work in hospitals have experienced this, especially if you've worked inpatient, med surg, in the ER, and in the ICU, yada, yada, yada. Step down, the list goes on forever and ever. And, I'm not sure if it's like a popular topic or if it's super discussed, but I think it's really important to talk about, especially nurse traumas and nurse experiences. And I think, nurse trauma, with a patient death, especially if it's your first one, I think as a nurse, as a human, you do experience a little trauma or sadness, or you kind of at least remember it, I think, for most people or for most nurses, because it is truly significant. So let me get into my story a little bit. So I was a new nurse and it was a crazy, crazy med surg floor. I honestly, even to this day, I can't even believe that I'm calling it a med surg floor like it was a regular floor. Guys, it was hella crazy. It was, as a new grad nurse, they kind of place you on the worst unit, or the unit that most people leave, and that was that unit. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And the unit I was on had the highest staff, or the highest nurse turnover, meaning which also means that nurses were just constantly leaving, and the nurses were just constantly hiring new nurses. That's kind of how bad it was, and how unsafe a lot of nurses felt, with their license, and they felt unsafe with the acuity of patients and the high number of patients we were getting, because it's not just about, having, 6 patients, to some nurses or to some, hiring managers, 6 patients, it may not feel like a lot, but if all of your patients are really acutely sick and they have really emergent needs, and they can't move and independently, and they can't walk, and they just have so many underlying medical conditions, and they have airway problems, like they're vented, they're trached, or they're on a ventilator and they have airway issues, guys, or they're super unstable medically, and their vital signs are always just out of whack, guys, that's really hard. And that's the kind of unit that I was on, and it was just really, really crazy. And I think it was, during my orientation, I had a great preceptor. I had several preceptors, but finally, I had one who was consistently my preceptor. And I think after the second week of, preceptorship / my orientation, I kind of was, on my own. he shadowed me, but I just wasn't always with my preceptor all the time, tight, like tight buddy, buddy, buddy. He kind of was slowly letting me go, which is kind of crazy to think, but it's not uncommon to hear that a new nurse is kind of, being pushed to become more independent after the second week of training or orientation. So I had this patient, several shifts now. It probably was over a week, and, they were fine. Not really. I mean, they were very, very sick. I don't really remember like the exact medical details and the diagnoses, but I think he had lung cancer. And, with lung cancer, usually the prognosis is just not good. He did not end up getting the transplant, even though he was, on the transplant list where he was considered for one, but obviously he did not pass, and he was just so like medically sick. And, I remember every day his family, he had two daughters. They were grown, and one son, and other family members who would visit, and they just seemed normal. Like I think they all knew the prognosis wasn't good, but they just seemed normal. Like they never really appeared to me sad and anything like that. And I would see this man every day, and he was in pain, but he wasn't mean to me. He just was weak and tired and fatigued. So honestly, I think there was just no further treatment or no further real plan for this patient, except the plan was just for him to die or to pass away. Or what a lot of nurses and in hospitals, you'll hear the term expire. I don't like that term. It's so like, I mean, I understand why the hospital and nurses use the term expire. To say that a patient expired, it really takes away or removes the emotional or the sentimental aspect of it, because as nurses, we are supposed to be compassionate and caring, which we are, but it's still a job and it's still a profession, and I guess it's a way for us to cope and to protect ourselves by saying that the patient expired, so that we nurses don't get too emotionally attached or invested, and so that we can actually focus still on our other patients, so that we won't get too emotional. So this patient was pretty much hospice at this point. Hospice, palliative care, pain management, making sure that he was comfortable. So he was just pain meds around the clock, and I guess we were just waiting for him to go and to pass away. Which honestly is still incredibly sad, and it gives me goosebumps. But yeah, how it happened, honestly, his death just kind of happened very casually, which is kind of weird it's a weird way to describe a death. But I remember I was going in to give out medications to him and his roommate. In one room there would be 2 beds, so 2 patients, 1 patient per bed. And I walked in, and there was a nursing assistant or nursing attendant who one of their responsibilities is taking vital signs. So she was taking his blood pressure, and the patient was also on a continuous pulse oximeter or pulse oximetry. So, it's just a little box, like a little machine, and the patient just constantly has like this sticker, a pulse oximeter sticker, so that attached to that machine, so that we can constantly monitor the oxygen level. So when I walked into the room, I was going towards the other patient. the second patient in the room just to give medication, and all of a sudden we hear this loud, crazy loud, like alarm sound. It's like, it's dramatic. It's something you would see in like that, that medical drama House, or I'm sure like Grey's Anatomy, like beep, asystole, beep, like cardiac arrest. They passed away. And I wasn't sure because sometimes those alarms are very finicky. You can't really trust them because sometimes it measures the wrong reading. Like sometimes the pulse oximeter or other machines, they produce the wrong values, or they're incorrect, or they alarm like crazy and inaccurately because the device is malfunctioned, or the sticker is a little off because the patient's finger is like too wet or too moist. A lot of factors contribute to that. So at first I was questioning when I heard this alarm, this loud alarm, like, is it real? Like, is it accurate? And I looked at the patient, like he always is like sleeping and calm, so I wasn't sure. But I looked at him, and the nursing assistant looked at me, and me and the nursing assistant, we both made eye contact, and like we just both knew. And I she said out loud, he passed away, he expired. And just my heart dropped. That was my first patient death. It was the first patient that I was responsible for. I mean, I was on orientation, but still, it was still my patient, under my name, that I constantly, took care of for like 2 weeks, I think, at that point. And I got kind of used to him. I got closer to him. I felt, a connection and a bond with him, even though, he couldn't really talk. He didn't have the energy to talk. And I think the reason why, honestly, I felt so connected to him is because I know this sounds weird, but he kind of reminded me a little bit of my dad. And when I lost my dad when I was young, I mean, I wouldn't say like personality wise or like qualities or like characteristics wise, like my dad and this patient were similar. I wouldn't say that because, like I said, the patient was just always sleeping and calm. Like, so I didn't really get to know like my patient's personality, like true personality like that. But I would just say that, I guess it was just the situation was similar, they were both Asian. They were both, father figures. They both passed away in the hospital and like the critical care unit, med surg, ICU. My father passed away in the ICU. They were both hospice care, palliative care. There was no hope left for them. And yeah, it was just hard. And so when the patient passed away or expired, I hate that term. I think it's just so silly, but I understand it's necessary, when you have such a serious job, like being a nurse. So we called the daughter, and they were emotional. I mean, they knew their father was passing, but I guess just to finally hear the words, he passed away, maybe it's just, it finally happened, and that's just the time they got emotional. So, I mean, quickly they came, like, I would say less than, like, 30 minutes or less, like, they were already in the room, and they were just crying and sobbing. And I guess that situation also reminded me a lot of, my situation when I was 9 years old, kind of just crying and grieving when my father was passing away, and after he passed away, just sadness, disbelief, and just mourning and grieving the loss you just had. So that was really hard to watch. What the hardest and the most traumatizing part and aspect of the whole situation was, Like I said in the beginning of my video, I said that, I worked on a really crazy, ridiculous, chaotic unit. If I could describe that unit, it was chaotic, crazy, and highly, highly, highly unpredictable. And that's what's scary about that kind of unit. And it was just severely understaffed as well. So, I'm sure, I'm not asking for like a pity thing, and I'm not complaining. It was the truth. It was the truth, and I'm not going to sugarcoat what was true, and not just my experience, but voiced by almost everyone on the unit. We were severely overworked, and it was really, really crazy. I mean, side note, I think one of the reasons as to why, our unit was just really poorly managed and just severely understaffed is because we actually had no manager for our unit. We had no manager for 2 years. And I think just the fact that there was no manager and no like manager to advocate for our unit and really speak about the heart of the issues on our unit to the upper management and leadership, since that was lacking, no one really advocated for us, and no one really heard, our cries and our complaints and, what we actually needed. So I think that's why it was just like the hardest unit and one of the worst. I don't want to say the worst, but I mean, it was a great team, but you know what I mean? One of the most hard and difficult and challenging units to work on in that hospital. So sorry, that was just a sidebar. I just have so many incredible stories. But anyways, yeah, so the reason, why I included this and said this is because this patient expired. We're done technically with the plan of care. So nursing administration, or the nursing office, the people who kind of also manage like the patient flow, and they see which rooms are vacant, or like, okay, which patient left the room or needs to leave the room. In this case, this patient passed away, this patient expired, they died, they passed away. So now we have an extra bed available, and now we need to quickly get this patient out, wrap the body quick, because we have more business to do. We have another person, another patient, another life to manage and to save and to take care of. And that is absolutely correct. But I think just the whole approach and the way of going about it, it was just really hard and difficult. And it was very, very hard. It was tough. It was emotional, because they were kind of, the nursing office people, they were kind of very impatient and rushing me and kind of yelling at me to hurry up and quickly get them out, because they expired, and the ER is, they're always packed with patients. It's overflowed, and I understood that. Logically, they're right. We need to take care of a new patient, who really needs this bed. They need the care. But at the same time, it was just so difficult, because a part of me just understood this, family who just lost their only father, and they were crying and they were upset. So, just all of this responsibility and weight just came on my shoulders, like, all right, nursing office, they're yelling at me, they're in my ear, hurry up, get the patient out, wrap the body and leave, like, make them go. But it's also like, but I can't be that cutthroat and abrupt and kind of rude and mean and uncompassionate to these family members who just lost their father, especially because I understood so much about what a loss means to me. like losing my own father in a hospital. Like, I always have that memory. So what I did in that situation as a new grad nurse is just, hi, it kind of went like this. Hi, and they were crying, the family members. And I just said, I'm really, really sorry. So sorry for your loss. Really sorry. If you need to talk, if you need to talk, I'm here. If you need anything, I'm here. And, they kind of were like this, and, they're Asian. They spoke English, obviously, like they understood me. I know the father like didn't speak English, and it was kind of obvious he was an immigrant, and I think that's why I felt a connection with him, because my own father was Asian. He was an immigrant. Yeah. I know, it's just like it was a very similar situation, and the fact that he passed away in a hospital. Sorry about that tangent. Like, I'm obviously emotionally connected, emotionally invested into this story that I'm sharing with you guys. So I said, I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm here if you need anything. But also, kind of like this, because I feel, a bit bad that I have to say this to them, but I also said, I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna give you, we need to give you like a little bit more time, but we do have to now, wrap your father, and we have to move him, and we're gonna send him to the morgue where you can also follow and take him, but we're really sorry. We unfortunately need this space. We need this room right now for someone else. I'm really sorry, but I can only really give you about 10 more minutes. Is that okay? I'm really sorry about that. And I mean, I don't understand how, but she was incredibly understanding and incredibly gracious with that. And I say this because I know, like, I did not do anything wrong. I'm doing my job, and I'm doing the right thing, but at the same time I felt so guilty, and I felt sad about the fact that I couldn't give this family more time to properly grieve when he just passed away like less than an hour ago. So yeah, and it was also sad and a little bit really hard for me, because literally right when they left, it was a quick clean of the room by housekeeping, and we oh my god, like in lightning speed does like the next patient quickly come from the ED, and when a patient comes from the ED, you work right away. You work even before they come, because you have the medical record number of the patient, so you have to do research of the history of what they're here for, and they come, and they tell you they're in pain and other stuff. You got to get their vital signs, you got to check the orders, what you got to do, get your antibiotics, get your fluids, blah blah blah, report anything wrong or abnormal with the patient. And it was crazy because I was in orientation, and every night on the bus when I was going home, I would think about what did I learn today, what happened today, what can I take away from today. And my patient passed away like maybe like noon or 1 p.m. around that time, and I was on the bus at 9 p.m. or 9:30, and it was crazy because I thought, damn, someone died today. Like, someone passed away today. The thing is, after I wrapped up the body and they left, I immediately took on this new patient. I literally had no time to process the death or like what I went through. And I am honestly a very emotional person. I don't know if you can tell. I'm an emotional person. I'm also logical too. I'm a nurse. I saved so many lives, med surg. I embrace my emotional side because that's who I am, but I'm also a logical person. It's not like during an emergency I would just, oh, it's too much, or like, I need to take care of my feelings first. No, feelings set aside. This patient's life is in danger. This is life or death. My feelings last. They're later. We fix this now. We fix this patient's life first. We fight for this patient's life. Bring the code card, bring the defibrillator, bring that machine, being dramatic, but it's true. It's your license, it's your patient. You better save that life. So, I was a great nurse. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it's true. And I worked really, really hard to advocate for all my patients, and I worked really, really hard to make sure I tried my best for every patient life. And, in this particular case, it was really hard because, I'm emotional and I didn't have time to process the death. And that's never happened to me before. Like, I never have I ever, like, had such a traumatic experience and I had to quickly move on and focus on something else, and had zero time, like 0 seconds to process what the hell or what the heck just happened. How do I feel? I couldn't check in on me even for a few minutes. So that part, in a way, it was hard. It was kind of traumatizing in a way. I remember on the bus going home thinking like, oh damn, like I had a patient death today. It was my first patient death, and I cried. I felt like such a bad person. I felt like I was heartless. I was like a heartless person. I was very hard on myself. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes work, sometimes the system, sometimes because, there's just so many lives that are sick and so many lives that need to be taken care of, it was my job to take care of the next patient right away. That's hard, but it is what it is. I couldn't process how I felt. It was immediately it was just always go, 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 go. I understood that was the need at the time. That's what had to happen at the time, but it was also very hard for me. I couldn't be human. I couldn't be myself. I couldn't take care of myself. And that's tremendously hard as a new nurse when you experience your first death, your first loss. I hope you never have to go through that. I hope you do set, this is what I recommend. Even if you're super busy, you can have a few minutes to yourself. I know it's really hard to, but just make an excuse to just quickly go to the bathroom just for like even 2 minutes, to let out a little tear, or just be still, to be numb, just to feel pain or to feel nothing. And maybe just set a quick alarm so you don't go past that time, because your patients need you. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end this video now because I know it's super long, and but I think I just wanted to share my story with you guys. I wanted to share my heart, my emotions, the truth behind my emotions, and I hope it helped you guys. I just want to thank all of you guys who are nurses and healthcare workers, frontline, inpatient nurses, med-surg nurses, ICU nurses, ER nurses, all of you guys, step-down nurses, palliative care, hospice nurses, for taking such good care of our patients. We need you. We thank you. I know so much that you guys do so much. You guys do unspeakable, unheard of things, and I am in awe of you guys every single day, and I literally bow down to you guys, and I thank you so much for your service. So thank you so much. Bye. Love and peace. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye bye.